This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. Sorry, that was a bit sudden. Welcome to the show. Lemon here on Lemon Live. You can see the intro at the end. We like that new video. Big thanks to the team for putting that together. Today, we're going to be discussing a rather serious question. Is there any way that we can justify how the Labour Party has performed over the migrant boat crisis? I'm asking this question because even the mainstream media has admitted that there's a huge problem with the boats coming across. Why? Because the Labour Party hasn't kept any of their promises about the migrant crisis, the Dunkirk spirit writ large, but this time with illegal migrants. It seems that even as we speak, the number who have crossed this year alone exceeds 20,000. Let's assume they cost £1,000 a week. That is phenomenal. £20 million a week of illegal migrants in this year alone. I'll play a little bit later once I get my guest on, something that Keir Starmer boldly said in terms of dealing with this issue. But he didn't, did he? It didn't work out. He hasn't done anything like that because there's been a 40% increase in migrants coming across the country, across the channel to this country. And that is a hole in the pocket of the exchequer. So what do? Well, they take money off pensioners with the fuel payment, which they've had to do a U-turn on. They're now trying to get personal independence payments as well taken off. Now, there's a big debate to be had there because we have an enormous welfare bill. That's what I think. But the Labour Party seems to be contradicting its own values by what it's doing. So not a good end of the first year for Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister, who is absolutely rock bottom in terms of his personal popularity. I've said it as an aside because we're not going to majorly focus on this today. But the other issue, of course, is he hasn't made any impact whatever on international relations when it comes to war and peace. Nothing good happening between him and Zelensky. Nothing good happening between him and the extremely compromised Emmanuel Macron. Nothing good happening between him and Donald Trump, though it is claimed that he has had some sort of a trade deal. Donald Trump clearly doesn't pay any attention whatever to what Mr. Starmer says about international relations. So all of these things happening all over the place. Well, let's focus mainly on the migrant boat crisis because that's making headlines today. Joining me is somebody from a party that's made a big thing of this. It's none other than Alan Cook. Alan, good to see you again. Sooner than I expected, but this story's bubbled up. You work with Reform UK, so go ahead.
Good morning, Lembit. Thank you for having me on the show again so soon.
Great to see you. Now, it looks to me that the Labour Party is in big trouble with this. They made these bold statements. I'll play something which, once the team's got it ready, which the Prime Minister said about all of this. But 20,000 seem to have crossed. They're just the ones we know about this year alone. What's your take on this? Because it seems to me it's been an abject failure when it comes to his promises.
My initial take is why is everyone surprised? I mean, come on. Starmer couldn't smash a burger, let alone smash a gang. And everyone knows from day one that that's the wrong way of looking at this. You know, it's like saying, I'm going to end crime in this country in the next parliament. And we all know that's not going to happen. That's practically impossible. And to stop the gangs is ridiculous because the business model is that there's an endless supply of customers. So whichever part of the gang network you actually smash, it will just be backfilled by someone else. You know, it's totally ridiculous. And the only way we're going to stop this, and everyone knows this, and it's bloody obvious, which is to pick them up as we are doing now in the channel, and instead of ferrying them to Dover, we take them back to France where they come from. As far as we know, there may be French citizens. We're doing them a favour because they've thrown all their documents overboard. So we don't know if they're French or not. We just, as they came from France, I presume they are. And in international law, we can do this. We're going to leave the ECHR anyway because there may be a few legal ding-dong.
Convention on Human Rights, ECHR.
Yes.
You're gone. Just in case people don't know what the ECHR means.
There's so many ways you could actually look at this. You know, the French have the same reckless endangerment laws that we do. So anyone piloting one of these little dinghies is basically breaking French law. So we can quite happily pick the dinghy up and its passengers, take it back to France and say, arrest this man for reckless endangerment at sea.
Well, if it's so straightforward, why aren't we doing it?
Because there is no political will to do it. They do not want to do it. France would be happy if we did it because it would remove the problem. People would stop migrating through Paris up to Calais to do the short hop to England. If we actually break this at that point, the obvious point, we are an island after all. That water is our protection and it's not being used as that. It's just being used as a way of ferrying them over here. This is the reason I left the Tory party. I had a conversation with David Davis and Sir Bill Wigging on immigration. They both admitted that we can pick up and drop off. However, there is not the political will, they said, to do it. And that was when the Tories were in power. And they also said it would look bad internationally. I left the Tory party that week.
Let me just, let's get a sense of what our great leader, the Prime Minister Keir Starmer, said. I think that we've got a speech which I can share here. Let's just see if we can get him on. Let's see if we can play this, and then we can talk about it afterwards. Now, this is a speech he made boldly and making all kinds of promises. So let's see what he says.
Good morning. Today we publish a white paper on immigration, a strategy absolutely central to my plan for change that will finally take back control of our borders and close the book on a squalid chapter for our politics, our economy, and our country. Take back control. Everyone knows that slogan, and everyone knows what it meant on immigration, or at least that's what people thought. Because what followed from the previous government, starting with the people who used that slogan, was the complete opposite. Between 2019 and 2023, even as they were going around our country, telling people with a straight face that they would get immigration down, net migration quadrupled until in 2023, it reached nearly 1 million. That's about the population of Birmingham, our second largest city. That's not control, it's chaos. And look, they must answer for themselves. But I don't think that you can do something like that by accident. It was a choice made even as they told you, told the country, they were doing the opposite.
Well, that's pretty embarrassing. I mean, that's him whinging about the Tory party. The first 2 minutes of his speech, just telling us that the Tories had failed. I have to say, it's cringeworthy.
You nearly put me back to sleep, Lembit.
Well, I'm not asleep. I'm enraged. And the reason I'm enraged is because he hasn't done any of that. I mean, he's implying...
But you knew he wouldn't. We all knew he wouldn't. You know, this is the Labour Party. It's a few lies, get into power, and then they revert to type. I really am surprised that you're surprised, or angry.
Well, it is, right. You could say he was actually... If you actually put those words into somebody else's mouth criticising Labour, the words would be almost exactly the same. I mean, it's like...
Well, let me tell you a little bit about Starmer. I had a 20-minute conversation with him just before the election.
Are you a friend of his then?
No, that's it. I have nothing to report back. It was 20 minutes of my life I won't get back.
How did you meet him?
My family's coming back from the Lake District. Him and his family are coming back from the Lake District. So I introduced myself. Pleasant enough, nice chap. But, I learned nothing in that 20-minute conversation. I was with Nigel yesterday. It's a smile on your face.
Nigel Farage, you mean? Yeah, the leader of your party.
And then you had me laughing after about 10 seconds. And then you've got a few anecdotes for dinner parties for the next year. So, a real character. Everything is from the heart. No auto cues, which is, Starmer's favourite bed pal. But, they're just completely different people. One's a conviction politician. One is very clearly not. You can't believe a word that comes out of his mouth. It is annoying having to listen to him because that he doesn't mean it.
Well, he would dispute that. I mean, obviously, not. Well, what he'd say is no. We're going to make a big difference to this. We're going to no, come on, and it's just kind of this stuttering, inconsequential lack of presence.
But it's policy that matters, really, isn't it? And trying to distill down to what the policy is, because they're not getting a grip on this at all. And is that deliberate? Are they really that inept? Or like the Tory party, did they actually also want mass immigration, which I think actually might be the case?
Do you think they actually want it?
Yes, they don't want the publicity to go with it, but they want the short-term gain. They're desperate. We've got Reeves killing the economy at every turn. So they'll do everything they can to increase it short-term to get a little bit of growth. But what they'll end up with is huge long-term damage. We've seen a mass exodus of people that set up new companies, run SMEs, entrepreneurs, people with money who will employ people and prop up the ailing hospitality market over here, are just leaving in droves. And no good will come of this. It's we were already at breaking point when the Tories were kicked out. And now, we've really, really got to hold our breath for as long as possible. While the Labour Party actually doubled down on what the Tories did.
Well, yeah, you're saying that. I mean, essentially, it does seem that a lot of people would say that the Labour Party is doing what the Tories did, but worse. Economically, they're just passengers. I said that before on the show. But in addition to that, a lot of people simply feel that they're incompetent. Certainly with the migrants.
Actually are doing damage to the vessel they're all sitting on. So they're not passive. They are actively doing harm. So aggressive passengers who don't like the boat they're sailing on.
So, but okay, on the issue that I'm discussing here, I mean, we're looking at a government that, by the way, the speech that I showed you there, that goes on for over 20 minutes. Over 20 minutes.
It seemed like it did for 2 minutes. I think it's like a group psychosis here, hysteria, because I think they actually deep down believe they are doing good and they're doing the right thing. Their version of socialism will be the one that finally works. The tweaks they make will be the tweaks needed to make socialism work in our economy for the first time, and so I think they do actually believe they're doing good and they're doing the right thing, but they're just misguided.
Well, misguided is a bit of an understatement. I mean, you've got this situation now where, frankly, you've got a complete failure of policy when it comes to the channel. In that speech, he goes on about how they were going to bring the migrant problem under control. And now we see the figures. The reason I'm talking with you today is this 20,000 figure. Okay, it's notional. It just happens to be a number. But we're in halfway through the year, and there's every likelihood that the boats will be at a new record. Liz Kershaw, who is in your party, I think she's a supporter of Reform UK, she says that she's got a place down on the south coast, and it's by the sea. And she watches the boats come in, the migrants being collected by vans, and they get driven off. And there's no one there. There's no one there. I've said before that I think it was in, was it Margate, Ramsgate, can't remember exactly where, but a retired ship's captain says they used to call the border boat there the eternal flame because it never goes out. And then meanwhile, we've got Starmer wanting to spend hundreds of billions on the British war machine when we can't even defend 20 miles of channel.
We can't defend
that
Bright
difficult?
Norton either. Apparently, you can just get there in an electric scooter and spray paint into a jet engine. So, no, we've been complacent for too long, and maybe, yes, put some more money into our defence, but it's a percentage of GDP. So what he's doing is saying, I'll put 5% of GDP in. By the time they've finished in power, our GDP will be next to nothing. So they'll probably end up putting less into defence anyway than we are at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, everything seems to be going wrong. Friday, I think, is the day that he celebrates, and the rest of us commemorate 1 year of Labour. Back to the boat situation, though, I just don't understand why it's so very hard for them to solve the problem. It's not difficult for anyone to take these sorts of shots of vast numbers of people coming through, walking up the beach, all the commentators moaning about it, and Labour apparently completely impotent when it comes to actually stopping it. I mean, the cameramen are following these people to the sea, and the French are just standing there watching. They're just watching this go on. And je ne sais quoi, I do not know what we can do. A boat, one of the taxi boats broke down today. I don't know if you saw the story, Alan. It was this morning. One of the taxi boats broke down. So the French authorities unloaded the people, and they all walked back into Calais. And it's pathetic. It's pathetic. Is this why Reform's doing so well? Because of this kind of disgraceful lack of border control?
It's one of the reasons, obviously, but each one of these people we're seeing on screen now, any one of them could be a rapist, a murderer, drug dealer, or a terrorist, and it is. I don't know. I think we should probably start arresting people who are responsible. Let's make some real consequences for the department in government that is supposed to be stopping this. If the next time an illegal immigrant commits a crime or a violent assault of someone or a sexual assault, then the people that are actually responsible for letting them get here should face trial. We have corporate manslaughter for the private sector. How about we do something similar for the public sector?
Well, we could arrest Yvette Cooper.
Sorry?
We could arrest Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, or the genius that is David Lammy, maybe Foreign Minister, though he wouldn't think it's his responsibility. But you said that Nigel Farage would do it differently. So, okay, he's a charismatic sort of fellow and everything else. But what is it that he would do that's different to what's being done now? What could that man do if he was Prime Minister?
Well, we've always said that our policies are based on common sense. And the obvious solution here is to stop this invasion of our country. How do we do it before? When they were trying to get over from France to here, use the Navy, stop them. You can, all we need is a few fast boats, a few drones, and the job is done. And France will be happy. As soon as we stop the draw to come here, then they will stop massing on the borders, the coast beaches of northern France.
But wouldn't it be more important to actually stop the incentive to come here? I'm told, I don't know, I haven't checked. Well, I'm told that Keir Starmer
do that anyway. It's if you get here illegally, you will never have the right to stay here. And we've said that, and we said we'll deport people who come here illegally as well. So, yeah, but at the moment we're not in power. I'm pretty sure the business model of the people smugglers will change as we approach the next general election, because they know all of a sudden that their income stream is pretty much going to stop overnight. Yes, we'll stop the incentive internally here, and we'll actually physically stop them from getting here as well. And, that is a nice two-pronged attack. We don't really need much more than that. Rwanda, which was apparently the big deterrent, it was only going to take a few hundred people. And we, on a nice, calm, warm day, we're getting 1,000 people coming over here. So that's Rwanda filled up for a month, 2 months on one day. So the people smugglers, if it was acting as a deterrent, if they were losing customers and losing money, what would I do if I was a businessman, a criminal business mastermind? I'd say, right, free passage to anyone for the next 2 days. You don't have to pay us. So, take a risk. What's the odds of you getting caught? You might make it, you might not. So 2 days, free passage, bang, Rwanda is now full up and is not a deterrent anymore. So it never would have worked. We need mass offshore processing if you're going to have that as your only deterrent. You need something that can take 1,000 people a day, at least for the first month until they realise it's happening.
Right, so let's bank what we've discussed so far, Alan Cook. First of all, we can both agree, everyone has to agree, even Labour voters would have to agree if there are any left, that Keir Starmer has totally and utterly failed the nation in terms of the promises he made, as it turns out, empty promises he made before the general election about bringing this migrant crisis under control. Let's remember, by the way, of course, the boats are the most visible and irritating part of it, but net migration is enormous. Most people that we know of come in through different means, a number of them legally, of course, but lots of them illegally. So there's a total failure there. Secondly, despite saying they were going to shut down hotels, we haven't talked about this yet, they're increasing the amount of accommodation for illegal immigrants. And then the third thing is that Labour don't seem to have an escape route from this. I want to drill down a little bit more into how specifically a Reform UK government would do this. So it's May 2029 or June 2029. Nigel Farage becomes Prime Minister. What happens the day after or the week after in terms of the actual policies? So in order to reassure our viewers that Farage won't be making empty promises too, what happens once you're in power?
Well, our biggest battle, funny enough, is not really going to be political. We will have the mother of all legal fights from the day we get into power. And, in England, we don't have a written constitution, but the current parliament cannot tie the hands of the next government. And that's quite a good system to have, because we vote these people in, we vote them out if we don't like them, what they do. Therefore, what they do cannot force the next government to continue doing it. So that works quite well. However, since the days of Tony Blair, we've had a different form of hand tying, and it's called international agreements. So they sign the country up with an international agreement. That's a lot harder to get out of, and often with penalties. So if you do manage to wiggle your way out, you get hit with huge financial costs. So the will to actually end these is not necessarily always there. So, the ECHR, yes, we need to leave the European Court of Human Rights.
European Convention on Human Rights.
Anything that we leave, we can mirror over here. So we still have the checks and balances. However, it'll be a system that actually works with the country, for the people of this country, and not against it. We're having foreign courts decide on how we run our country. So obviously that's straight away, you can see that's wrong. But a lot of the reasons we're going to have a lot of legal problems is the Tory government for 14, 15 years didn't actually reverse the constitutional damage that was made by the Blair Brown government. And that's normally what they do. And they didn't. So we've got things like the the Equalities Act of 2010, which has brought all of this gender ideology and EDI into schools and into the private sector. Normally a Tory government would have got rid of that. They would have basically ended the Bank of England from setting interest rates and using as a political hammer against the government.
Yeah, on that one, I don't get why anyone thinks it's good to have an independent interest rate being set, because that emasculates the government.
The
most important, one of the most important tools of government economic policy is setting interest rates, and they handed it away. I never got that.
We actually still have a currency, which is our own, which we can actually tinker with to help the economy actually ride through bumps in the global economy. But when you give it to the Bank of England and you get people, political people like Mark Carney in charge, then it's a nightmare scenario because they act against the government of this country. And we have the Supreme Court, Blair's a little baby, taking the power out of the House of Lords and giving it to a bunch of unelected judges who have proven to be very political, certainly with various aspects of Brexit.
Well, I would say with environmental policy, the stupidity of the government in the last 15 years is just heartbreaking. When I first became an MP in 1997, maybe this is me being nostalgic, Alan, but I just felt we had a far higher quality of politician because they were independently successful. I used to think that we should have full-time politicians who didn't do anything else. Now I feel the opposite, because I think we've got this stratum of career politicians who are utterly dreadful. And I don't think being a lawyer is being in the real world either. I mean, industrialists. Not one person on the cabinet, I'm told, has run a business. I could be wrong. If you're on the cabinet, you run a business, or you have done, then get in touch with unprecedented.tv. We'll give you space. We've just got a bunch of incompetence. So we're almost out of time, actually. I feel this is a bit of a cancelling session, to be honest with you, Alan. I wore this shirt for you, by the way, because I knew you'd do something flowery. But
you get lost in the background a little bit, though.
What? But so you say you dare to criticize my shirt? That's ironic. But adding all that together, how has Keir Starmer's first year been?
I think exactly how I would have anticipated it. He's not a great statesman. He bumbles through most. His stage presence is very robotic, sort of monotonal. But that is just him. So why are we expecting something different? It's like, if you marry your girlfriend, she becomes your wife, but she doesn't change. She's still the person there was before. So there's not some overnight, massive change. It's a strange analogy, but what did they expect was going to happen to Starmer when he became Prime Minister? Suddenly he was going to grow a pair? I really don't think so.
It's worth remembering that 2/3 of those who bothered to vote didn't. They actually voted against the Labour Party, and he only got about 1/5 of the total electorate supporting him. Yeah. So he didn't actually win the election. The Conservatives lost it.
Corbyn, who lost, got more votes than Starmer this time round. So
incredible. It really is incredible.
It is. And they say, oh, we have a mandate for this. And it's like, no, you don't. You've got 20% of the electorate. And Corbyn, who got more votes than you last time round, lost. So there's no mandate at all.
The final question, really, the big question, I've looked, Reform's gained over a dozen local government seats since the May elections, seems to be riding high in the polls. Is there a danger that you've peaked too soon? Can you consolidate this?
No, because we are a breath of fresh air, and what we're also is pretty much the last chance saloon for this country. The damage which is being done, this is probably our last chance to undo it. If we're not successful with the next general election, I think most people will just pack their bags and say goodbye. So we have to win. If you like the country,
not everyone has the option to leave the country. I have to say, millionaires can, and there's a mass exodus of millionaires. I don't know if you're a millionaire. You look posh. Maybe you're rich, but you've decided to stay and fight. It does seem to me, though, if we have 4 more years of this, it's just going to be catastrophic, really. I'm not, by the way, trying to make a party political broadcast for Reform UK. I'm just so frustrated. I watch the mainstream media every morning so that you don't have to. And all morning, even they have been pointing out the utter failure of Labour on this core issue, this migrant crisis issue. And of course, we didn't even touch on his other big problem today, which is the benefits that he's trying to swipe away from people. Now, I think the benefit system is a bit of a mess, but there's so much contradiction going on there. When you've got a majority the size of Keir Starmer's and you can't actually be assured of winning what you want, it's not a very promising scene. Last question, I often ask this question.
Well, they are a coalition party, though. That's why, isn't it? You know, you've had the hard left, the sort of middle left, and then very little representation for the centre left in Parliament. But the core of their voters, the majority of their voters are centre left. The majority of the party is a three-way coalition. The majority of the actual parliamentary party are middle left and far left. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's a fractured party. This is always going to happen. And I hopefully it will be what brings the government down. It'll be a vote of no confidence.
But I don't know. I personally would like to, although it's painful to say it, see them get into 2029, because then there can be no doubt that Labour will lose and lose handsomely. That could be the great seismic shift that many people want, including, I suppose, Reform UK. Thanks, Alan. I'm not sure I've cheered anybody up this morning. There we go. The numbers keep going up, and appreciate your time. That's Alan Cook from Reform UK. Let's keep watching the figures. Things to watch out for today. There's a vote in Parliament about disability payments, basically. There will be a degree of rebellion in the Labour Party. I would expect Keir Starmer to win today, but it'll be interesting to see how many Labourites are willing to defy him. And then we'll have a look at that tomorrow. Coming up as well, there may be some other shows starting this week here on unprecedented.tv as well. So stay watching. Big thank you to Alan. Big thank you to the team as well. I'm hoping that we will continue to increase the wonderful offerings that we have here at unprecedented.tv. I'm Lembit Opik. This was Lembit Opik Live. If you're watching it at the launch time of the show, it is recorded live, and you can see it anytime as live on X. But watch out, we're going to be on other streams too. Thanks very much to the team.
This is all wrong. I shouldn't be up here. I should be back in school on the other side of the ocean. Yet you all come to us young people for hope. How dare you?
Boring. 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 Boring.
You got to work. Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
You're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
I call again for the immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages,